Do you hear it? The hum of a dial-up modem? The crackle of a cassette rewinding? The laughter from a living room full of friends with Thursday night watching Friends. The 1990s were not just a decade, they were a feeling of simplicity, discovery, and connection. And here we are, decades later, falling in love with that time all over again. Hi, and welcome back. It's so great to have every one of you click on for this conversation today. I thought we might have a little bit of fun. My granddaughters always call me. We have nice conversations and they talk about what they are doing, but also they asked me about Nana. What was it like in the 90s? Well, of course, you know, the 50s and the 60s is when I was really growing up and maturing. But in the 90s, I was working in New York, but I am well aware of the 90s because a lot of exciting things happened, not only in my life, but also I think in everybody's life. It was such a wonderful time. Everything was a little bit slow. Everything felt safe. The music was absolutely great. You know, personally, I don't get today's music. You know, I can't figure it out, but that's just me. But everything seems so safe and so happy. And of course, in all things, the further we get away from it, we always remember the good things, and whatever is bad, we kind of forget. But these Gen Zers today are just, they amaze me. My granddaughters are so obsessed with everything in the 90s. Let's start with the music. And of course, I'm wearing my Tonic t-shirt today because my son still is the lead singer of a band called Tonic, and they were very, very big in the 90s. And thank heavens for this 90s craze. He is still really busy and touring everywhere with his band and other 90s bands. So the music was absolutely great in the 90s. You had such a mixture of rock music, of traditional music. It was just real music, and it was happy and up. And of course, you did have grunge and all other kinds of music. But music was not about, killing and sex and murder and whatever is going on today. It was really, really great music. And remember that we would take our music with us. We would have a Walkman with us, or we'd have VCR tapes, and we would click on the tape and you can hear the tape rewinding and rewinding. It was just great. And in the 90s, I was working as an actress in New York. And of course, didn't have a cell phone. I had a beeper. I wore a beeper all the time so that if I was away from the landline and my agent tried to get in touch with me, he would beep me, and then I would try to find a payphone somewhere to call my agent. And a lot of times, as an actress, if I was on set of a movie and my agent called me, I would have to stand in line because all of the other actors maybe would, in the break, would be answering their beepers and talking to their agents on the phone. So I would have to stand there for a long time before I could actually get access to the payphone that I would have to use. So we couldn't walk around and have constant connection. You know, something that really bothers me is that, you know, I live in a community here, and a lot of people have teenage children, or maybe they have guests and young children. Everyone that walks by my window, all of the young people who walk by my window have their noses in their cell phones. They don't see anything around, they don't hear anything, but they're constantly sitting like this and looking at their cell phone. But when the adults go by, not one of them are looking at a cell phone. And it's because we were not used to always having our noses in cell phones. So I really think that the younger generation and my granddaughters have expressed to me, gee, you know, it would be so nice just to hear the phone ring and have a landline. And I understand that landlines in some households are coming back. And I can remember that ring. As a matter of fact, I am so old that I lived in a house where they were called a party line, and every family had a different ring. So your phone would ring, and maybe it wasn't your people trying to get in touch with you, but it was your neighbors, and your neighbor had a different ring. So that's how old I am. There were party lines where everybody was connected, and you had your own special ring. Anyway, I digress. I think because of everything that has happened today, the Gen Zers are finding certain comfort in thinking about something that they didn't have. Millennials have lived it. They know what it is to have lived through the 90s, and I do as well, a member of the silent generation. And scientists do say that there is a certain feeling of happiness that nostalgia brings to us. So there really is a psychological advantage to be able to have nostalgia in your life. So the fashions of baggy jeans, flannel shirts, snooties, and I remember chokers, all of those things are coming back, and the thrift shops are thriving. My daughter and I were at the thrift shop the other day, and I could see all of the millennials, it was on a Saturday, looking through and piling their carts full of vintage t-shirts and vintage things from the 90s. So I guess it's true. They say whatever goes around comes around. Are you like me? If I watch a streaming series, and there are a lot of episodes available now, when I start watching a streaming series, I tend to binge. My daughter gets so upset with me because once I start into something, I cannot wait to see what's going to be happening next. But I realize how much more fun it was back in the day with Friends or any series that you were watching, a Dynasty, anything that was happening. You had to wait a whole week until another episode would be available. And quite honestly, that's actually more healthy than sitting down and having yourself binge maybe all day long trying to finish a series that is streaming. And I have to tell you, I am guilty of it. But it was more exciting when I know my children and we would watch an episode of a show, and we had to wait another week before we could finish that series. And I'm not too sure whether Little House on the Prairie was back in the 90s, but I know Friends was, and Seinfeld, and we would have to wait for a whole week until we could get another episode of that. Anyway, I'm sure that you have a list of things that you remember from the 90s, and I think it would just be awesome for all of us if you could put in a comment below the things you remember about the 90s and what gave you pleasure, and what maybe today you will get, maybe a flannel shirt or some type of baggy jeans, something that you will get, or maybe you're going to a 90s concert, something that brings back your teenage years, something that brings back that wonderful nostalgia of how it used to be. please put that in the comments below, and I would absolutely love, as long with everybody else, love to see what you have to say. Well, I kind of meandered today here, but I was just, after conversations with my granddaughters, I realized, hey, this is really, really very interesting. And when I think myself back to the 90s, it really was a wonderful, wonderful period, I know, in my life. And I am sure it was in yours too, but let me hear about it. Thank you so much, and please know that I do think of each and every one of you. And if there is a topic you want me to cover, please just jot it down below, and I will read it, and I will put it on my list of conversations to talk about, because after I put up so many videos, sometimes it's hard for me to really think of something that maybe you might be interested in hearing. Take care, and I hope to see you again in my next video. And be well, be happy, and know that you are truly loved.